Best in podcast, the best in town. You want to get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you want to go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Newth.
And we're no damn experts. I just want to say good morning. And
yes, good morning.
I'm very excited for today because all I know is we have a guest in the studio.
Yep. I told her show up early this morning for our podcast.
It. Yeah, and I'm here.
It's kind of fun. I kind of like it when you don't know what's happening.
It's one of my favorite things. Like, I can't prepare, so everything,
But not that,
which is vastly different than any other
normally.
episode. Correct. Yeah. But I'm just excited to learn what you've brought to the table today,
Yes.
Shannon.
Yeah. Well, me too. So I would like to introduce Tom. You've met Tom. He walked in the door this morning.
Yep.
Tom is our guest, and he is from Sillers Boot and Shoe Repair, which is 101 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So Tom,
Tom, you
welcome.
don't look 101.
Yeah, looking quite
all.
spry.
It's a very common comment
Yeah.
as I've been announcing the centennial celebration.
Yeah.
That's a long time, but not really. I guess it's really impressive because as a shoe repair business or a cobbler, I think is the proper term, that's kind of one of those trades that isn't as well seen today, but I've used the services and I love the services. So tell us, when did you get into it? All about you. Are you
Who
a Great
is
Falls
Tom?
guy? What else do you do in your spare time? If you want to drop your social security number, your credit score, we'd
whatever
be
you
going
wanna
on a
tell
shopping
people.
spree. It's fine. Whatever feels normal.
right.
The floor is yours.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is your evaluation of the trade is probably the best way to summarize it. It's not as well seen now as potentially it once was, or as certainly as it once was, but it's certainly not a dying trade. What I've found since I've been
Interesting.
in the trade is that there are fewer providers, but those providers have so much work because it's not as readily available or as well seen as it has been in the past. So it's a really good way to summarize that because it's not a dying trade at all.
That's really interesting because that has definitely been my perception, and especially with the, what is it called, like the fast fashion or the, I'm known to buy my $15 shoes at Target. The type of
Throwaway.
the quality of product, shoes, has gone down for a lot of people. And so I think in my head, I assumed that because the quality of most shoes, people aren't buying them for long lasting, that taking them in to get repaired, maintain them isn't as prominent of a thing. So that's really interesting. And I'm glad to hear that it's not a dying profession.
Yeah, excuse me, it's not a dying profession at all. And it really is wild to see some of the repairs that come into the store and what people are willing and unwilling to spend money on.
Sure.
I've done $100 resole on a pair of $30 tennis shoes. And I've also had customers turn down a $30 pair of heels on a $400 pair of boots.
Oh my gosh.
So it's really interesting to see people's willingness to utilize the services and where they find their best return for their money in terms of repair. But really, it's also critical in the business to expand your services to offer not just shoe repair, which, of course, has been a mainstay of this business for as long as I'm aware of the history. So in terms of not necessarily alterations, but repairing stitching on different items where it's whether it's belts, bags, purses, luggage. I've got a cello case in right now. I have a wall tent in right now. I have a boat cover in right now. So there's
That's a lot different than a boot.
It's the range of services is quite amazing. I think I've developed a reputation of, if somebody else in town won't fix it, go talk to the boot guy.
Okay. Well, hey, that's a good. You're versatile. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So how did you get into cobbling? Is that the correct
that a term?
Is that the correct term?
It's correct enough.
Okay. That's
You can tell us we're wrong.
You know, that's good enough
We're
for this
comfortable with
podcast.
that.
Absolutely. So the story really is as simple as I walked into Sillers Boot and Shoe Repair about 5 years ago now, almost to the week.
Okay.
And I had on the pair of boots I'm wearing. I walked in. Dennis was in there, Dennis Siller. And I'd done a little bit of research in advance, and I knew that he'd been interviewed by the newspaper, and he and Jerry, his wife, were looking to sell the business and retire. So I had that in my mind. But I walked in, I asked Dennis if he could resell these boots, and he said, yeah. And I looked around at his business, and he saw me look around. And I said, do you still want to sell your business? And he said, yeah, absolutely. And about 4 to 6 weeks later, it was done.
Oh my gosh.
It's
that's fast.
that simple. It was that quick.
Had you been a cobbler before you
that
walked
was my
in?
next
Not
question.
for 1 second in my life.
What the?
And in 4 weeks, you were the owner and operator
Of a
of
cobbler.
a long-standing.
Dennis
cobbler.
must have really wanted out.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, it was a time, I think, both for him and Jerry as well as myself, where we were looking for a change. And our personalities aligned, what we wanted to accomplish aligned, and it just worked out really in a fantastic way. I can't imagine it going any better. And I think if that circumstance was explained to somebody and they had to guess how it would work out, I don't think anybody in their right mind would say it would work out this well.
Wow.
So did you mentor? Did you just
Yes,
read a
absolutely.
book and
So-
Dennis
YouTube
just dropped the
videos?
keys and was like, good luck. Yeah.
When I bought the business, along with that was a 6-month apprenticeship with Dennis.
Oh,
So we were able to
Perfect.
work side by side, which was critical, essential, whatever term you want to use. It had to happen because, as I said, I had no experience doing this.
yeah.
And, you know, he had worked in that building as the owner for 50 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
he and Jerry had this vested interest in seeing the business go on.
Sure.
And so it really just worked out well. I was ready for a change. I wanted to do something working with my hands. I wanted to, have a job that I could feel proud about, taking a paycheck from.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to just close the door. So it worked out well for both parties.
Has it always, in the 101 years, has it always been Sillers, or did Dennis change it at some point to Sillers?
Dennis did change it to Sillers Boot and Shoe Repair. So it first started with Frank Shear as Northside Shoe Repair.
Okay.
And it was located, right now it would be the north and east corner of the Charlie Russell Museum, just across the street,
Oh.
right by the Gittins store.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
a
Yeah.
vacant lot just north of that. It was in that location.
Okay.
And he started it there.
Did
in
Charlie go there?
I just don't know.
Yeah. I
yes.
bet he did.
Yes, he
I
did.
bet he did.
Yeah, we can say whatever we want.
Yes. Charlie Russell approved. Yeah.
So it started there in 1923.
Wow.
Oh,
That's
probably
the-
didn't go there.
Earliest verifiable date that I can confirm the business was open. The
Wow.
Great Falls History Museum was kind enough to look into their records, and they found
Yeah.
a phone directory
Oh.
for Mr. Shear. And right beside his name was listed Shoe Repair, and that's from 1923.
Okay.
So verifiably, it opened as late as 1923. I spoke with Ann Shear, his daughter-in-law, and she's now in her 90s.
Oh,
And I wouldn't have guessed that when she walked in the door. She drove herself to the shop. She walked in
Wow.
the door. I interviewed her. I would not have guessed that. And she thought that it started in 1921. But there's apparently Frank was working in shoe repair his whole life. And
Okay.
so
Oh.
The official
there's a
business
little,
start.
a little hazy on whether or not he was working for somebody else or whether or not it was truly Northside Shoe Repair. So Frank started it, and then Casper Siller, Dennis's father, moved his family here from, I believe, South Dakota.
Okay.
although it may have been North Dakota.
One of those, yeah.
They moved here, and he took over the business as Northside Shoe Repair. And then between Casper and Dennis, the business moved to its current location.
Okay.
But the business was then renamed Sillers Boot and Shoe Repair by Dennis after he took over ownership.
Okay.
So was there any time in this history, because Shannon and I really are big into outfits and clothing and fashion, was there any time in this history where they custom made shoes? And do you custom make shoes?
So when I was speaking to Anne,
Okay.
she told me that Frank did everything up to and including custom-made shoes, which for the period really wouldn't have been surprising. It would have been a little more surprising if that service wasn't offered. As you go through the years, I think it becomes much less common just because of the expense to invest in the machinery. And I have a lot of it, but not all of it. And the equipment that I lack would be an incredible expense because it's not just the equipment. It takes a large area to store it.
Okay.
So Frank certainly did. I'm not sure about Casper. Dennis made I believe over 1,000 pairs
Oh my
of
gosh.
custom boots. And
Holy moly.
I have 3 pairs
Wow.
Of his
in the-
boots?
of his boots, not that were made for me, but
That
I
he made.
actually have the pair of boots he made for himself,
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
as well as a customer who returned, and his feet have grown since they were made. And he said, I just didn't want to donate these. And so they're on display at the shop. And as I was going through preparing for the centennial celebration, Dennis gave me several photo albums of the boots he made, and I actually found the boots that were given to me by the customer he made them from. I found the brand new on the counter picture that he took.
That's
So
neat.
he made a lot of custom boots. And then as he progressed in his career, there came a point where it was kind of a really jump into this and really make it happen, or scale back, as he and Jerry were getting ready for retirement. And he really wanted to jump into custom boots and have that be kind of a career job for him and then a retirement job for him. And the way he explained it to me is he sat down with the bank loan officer and they went through the numbers, and the return.
I was trying to convince him that it was going to be viable.
He said, just maybe don't jump into this.
Maybe don't. Yeah.
Maybe not a
Crusher
good
of
plan.
dreams.
And so much of the equipment that is essential for building boots was then sold to another individual who wanted to get into it. So I kind of missed that aspect of the business opportunity. That being said, I like what I do. And a lot of people ask me if I'm going to get into it. I'm not sure that the return.
You don't think the stars will align?
There are so many high quality boots out there that are at really reasonable prices for what they are and the labor that goes into them. To try and compete with huge reputations and businesses like that,
A little bit tougher.
Yeah.
It's not something that I would shy away from, but with the price tag that's on it, it just makes it a little less realistic to make it a sound business choice to do.
How many of Dennis's boots do you see like on an annual basis to get resold or repaired now? Like, now that you have the photos, do you go, ooh, I got a Dennis original here?
Yeah.
So I don't think I've ever had a pair of his boots come in to be resold. The time between when he stopped making boots and when I took over the business was, I can't put a number of years on it, but it was substantial. I think it was between the order of 15 to 20 years.
Okay.
So it's not saying a boot won't last that long, but with cheaper footwear that's readily available, a lot of that higher quality footwear comes in less and less frequently. Now, that being said, for example, Mike Ryan is a bootmaker in Helena, and I've seen his boots come in. And so bootmakers in the area, the labels, you get really attuned to what they look like, and it's just really apparent when something comes in of quality.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to see that. So even though I haven't worked on, at least unbeknownst to me, maybe somebody pulled off a sticker or a label, but
Well, I hope there's just people out there donning their dentist boots
Yeah.
everywhere. And
Proudly.
one day that they just start showing up and you take a picture of them and you get to
Yeah.
show that
How
progression
cool.
of here's what they look like and here they are now.
so wildly enough, a guy out of Massachusetts contacted me through social media because his wife picked up a pair of Sillers boots. And he just decided to do some
Wow.
research. And he's like, hey, just wanting to get some background. My wife bought
Yeah.
these from Goodwill.
Oh
Did
my
you
gosh.
make these? It's like, well, I didn't, but
Yeah.
Dennis did.
I know
I
who
know who
did.
did.
So
yeah.
the reach and the travel of these boots,
Wow.
is just
That's kind of pretty
Quite amazing.
epic.
That is really
Yeah.
cool. And how so it was ended up in a Goodwill out on the East Coast.
Yep.
Well,
Wow.
and this is the thing that I love about thrift shopping is you can pick up like a used shoe and even if you don't know the brand or the label, you can tell a quality made product and it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You're like, oh, 50 cents? Okay.
Yeah.
You're coming home with
Sure.
me.
Yeah.
So to see that transfer, like, it's like you always want to mark $1 and see where it ends up.
Yeah.
Like you can track those dollars these days. It's like tracking those boots. Just
Yeah.
where have you gone?
And
What have
that's
you
cool that
seen?
they reached out to you
That
to
is.
say, like, let's track the origin of these boots.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
You mentioned you had a 6 month apprenticeship with Dennis. 6 months is really not very long to learn a trade as well as operating this business. I'm curious what day one after Dennis wasn't there anymore, after your apprenticeship was over, when you're just on your own go, what was that like?
Well, the first day, I showed up, I don't know, an hour and a half early because I was nervous and excited.
Yeah.
And Dennis was 5 minutes late. That was the longest 5 minutes of my life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I bet. I can imagine.
But, it really was a great apprenticeship. And his comment at some point early on was 6 months will be just enough time to give you the knowledge you need to figure the rest of it out.
Okay.
And that was so true, especially given his time in the trade versus my time in the trade. A lot of footwear has changed. A lot of the techniques and the materials have changed. And so even though the knowledge he was able to share with me was very relevant, it was relevant for a smaller percentage of the overall work I do now because of the different products on the market now. But the foundation, it was very similar. So it was easy to use that knowledge and learn additional techniques and materials and how to treat them. It can get into the weeds about different glues and primers and cleaning and all that sort of thing. But had I not got that basic level of knowledge from Dennis, it would have been a very different first couple of years.
Yeah, I can
can only
imagine
imagine.
that there's not a standard problem. There's not a standard issue. Like everything you see is going to be unique unto itself. So there is really no way to teach you everything you need to
Right.
know.
Teach you the skills to figure it out,
Yep.
like you said.
Yep.
Yeah. So we, on our podcast, we have like different episodes we call as part of our makers series. So people
Yeah.
who are artistic or craft or create things. And even though you're not making these shoes, I see you fitting in so well to this makers series because you have to have so many different skills to craft and create and sew and glue and all of these things. Are there big sewing machines in there? Is there glue? Is there an element of creativity when it comes to figuring out how to
Oh, yes.
cobble? I'm just going to use, using this as a verb.
There are a lot of tasks that, in general, fall into a very set process. If somebody comes in and they need a new pair of heels on their flats or their cowboy boots or what, that's pretty straightforward. A lot of the shoe repair is very straightforward. And then if we get into some of the not boot and shoe repair,
Yeah.
that's where, you have to kind of figure out how you're going to go about the repair. And I'm really big on customer service, and so I like the customer to be involved in that. And typically when somebody brings something in, we stand at the counter, I tell them what my idea is. Sometimes if I don't have a good idea, I'll just say, leave it here. I'll look at it for a week and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's being able to problem solve and kind of navigate unknown waters and not have that be a stressful event is really essential because a lot of the stuff that comes in, I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to have to give this some thought. I had a guy bring in a golf cart top the other day.
Okay.
And where the see-through plastic met the vinyl was just torn and ripped, and the zipper was messed up. And it's like, can you fix this? Like, I'm sure I can. Just let me think about it for a while.
Yeah.
Let me figure out how I will.
Yeah, there's a lot of that sort of
I would never think to take that to a boot and shoe repair place.
So the things I have taken to this man. Before I start this line of stupidity that he has had to deal with, let me ask, because on TikTok, I watch mechanics who talk about like good cars versus bad cars and, what are the best kind of cars. What in your business, when you see a certain brand of shoe come in, is there somewhere you're like, oh my God, please not this brand again? And why do people always want to fix this crap?
Yeah. Or like people should stop buying these because I'm fixing them all the time. You don't have to say the actual brand name.
I'm not sure if there's anything that I shy away from tremendously in terms of brand. Usually when an item comes in that is more towards the end of the spectrum that I don't like working on, usually the price of the repair prices out the job.
Oh, okay.
Usually. But every once in a while, somebody with a $30 pair of tennis shoes wants a $100 resale.
Mm-hmm.
The price of the repair is the price of the repair. It's based off the work that has to be done. So even though it may not, in my mind, be the best way to spend your money, I'm very clear about that with the customer. And I try as reasonably as a business owner as I can to talk them out of it. But if the item means something to them, I'm happy to do the repair. Yeah, that's about it.
So I'm going to share some of the things I have brought
Okay.
to Sillers Boot Repair.
Okay.
I'm going to start with this beautiful handbag that I bought, and it's going to sound very snotty and braggy.
Okay.
And I don't mean it by this way, but if you really knew me, you'd know I bought it off of eBay, and it's not a big deal. I have this beautiful Dolce & Gabbana handbag.
Oh.
It is gorgeous, and I love it. But the side pocket has a zipper, and the zipper came off at the end. And so I had to whip stitch the zipper to stop it from sliding completely off all the time. So now I've got this eBay purchased Dolce & Gabbana handbag that has some gold whip stitching inside the zipper. And I've had it this way for a long time. And I have no idea what to do. And I'm like, God, there's got to be a place, because I've got other handbags that there's got to be a place you can take them or send them to get fixed. These are high quality items. They should be able to be fixed, or there should be parts. So I started down the path of looking for parts for my purse.
Oh, okay.
And I'm
like
like
a Dolce & Gabbana warehouse somewhere with extra parts.
you know, like the gold little feet that go on the bottom of handbags.
Yeah.
I was looking for those, and I was looking, well, can you replace this zipper?
Yeah.
And somehow, in divine intervention, the clouds parted and the light shone down on me and said,
Sillers?
Sillers. And I'm like, well, they repair boots. Maybe they can repair handbags. So I walk in and I say, do you repair handbags? He's like, yeah, we repair handbags. I'm like, can you repair this? And he looks at it real quick, analyzes the problem, sees that he'd have to undo the lining inside there. He'd have to find a new zipper. It wouldn't be a Dolce & Gabbana zipper, because turns out there's not a Dolce & Gabbana parts warehouse anywhere in the world.
Doesn't have those on hand.
This would be kind of the process. And then this would be the relative cost. Again, I purchased the bag on eBay, not retail. Had I been a retail purchase customer, I probably would have said
other options.
Yeah, I might do that. But then I looked at him. I'm like, he goes, it's probably not worth it. I'm like, he goes, your whip stitching option really seals the deal. And I'm like, then that's what we stay with. So
He
there
really
we go.
just didn't want to deal with it. Yeah.
Well, the amount of work and value for that. And if you're like me and you've got 1,500 handbags and 10,000 pairs of shoes,
Right.
do you
don't.
really need that kind of investment made in your
eBay purse?
right?
Yeah.
So there was that.
I would much rather pass on a repair and have that customer save that money,
Yeah.
because a customer will remember pretty well if you treat them right. They will never forget it if you treat them wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, losing a customer over any repair, high dollar or low dollar, is not worth not giving them good sound advice.
No.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, in today's day and age, unfortunately, that's harder to find.
Yep.
So appreciate that that's your mindset about it.
The next thing I took in.
Did any of these actually end up being
Well,
repaired?
Yeah,
Okay.
I get the heel of my heels done if I get them in there soon enough. I've taken some heels in and he's like, what have you been grinding? Like this is completely not repairable at this point. I'm like, yeah, I've
At
been
least he's
walking
honest,
without
yeah.
a heel for probably, I don't know, 2 years over concrete. And he's like, yeah, don't do
nope.
that. But I have my like favorite pair of Tom's wedge booties.
Oh, yeah.
Loved them. I had them in tan and green.
Okay.
Well, the
I had them in
heel-
gray for a while. Yeah.
The heel is just glued on, and so it started to fall off. And I'm like, I'll go back down to Sillers. So I bring him in. He looks at him. He's like, here's the deal. I can glue this back together. Now, before I took them, I had repaired them with Gorilla Glue
Yeah.
myself.
Okay.
And it was not helping. So I'm like, well, clearly there's a better option. Turns out there is not. I go in and I get told, here's the deal. I can use this kind of glue. I can do this kind of a fix. Chances of it holding any longer than the Gorilla Glue you've been doing isn't super good, but I can do it. And I'm like, I really like these boots.
Yeah.
And I looked.
How much longer did they last?
I didn't have it done because
the
in
Gorilla
reality,
Glue, yeah.
I did know like they just weren't worth being fixed. And
Yeah.
again, they're a dime a dozen on Poshmark. So
Right.
in the
You can get
garbage
yourself
they
some new
went.
ones. Oh,
Yeah.
sad day. But again, honest
We've
take.
got to hear
Yeah.
at least one success story.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm waiting.
So here
for
we go.
something positive.
Here's the best part. I have a pair of navy blue Cole Haan heels. I love them. Bought them on Poshmark for like $10.
Nice.
So I did well there.
Yeah.
And I wear them often because they are stunning. Like I feel like $1 million in these shoes. Well, I don't wear them out, and the heel wore down, and I got to it just in time, and I brought them in. This was like one of the first times that I went with a shoe, and I said, "Hey," because I had already purchased the ones that you pop in, like at the do-it-yourself repair. Don't do that. It's pointless. They don't work, or they don't work for me. So I took them in, and he's like, "Yeah, I can do this." And then I got a heel card. Like if you do so many heel repairs,
Hey,
it's like a
punch
frequent
card?
flyer card. I came back and I bragged all day long. I'm like, look at my new heels. Look at the repair. Look at, I can walk around and I don't get stuck in the carpet because the nail's sticking out anymore. It is the best thing in the world because then you can get a little bit more life out of your heels.
This has just got me thinking, like, I just have not thought about repairing my shoes. I should do. However, I did take a pair of Chaco's sandals in, and you fixed the bottom of them for me. I don't know if that's a job you like or not, but they've been working fantastic because Chaco's are, you know, great,
Rubber.
real high quality. Yeah, but I've had them for 18 plus years. They've been all over the world with me, and just the front was, the bottom sole was peeling away from the part, and so he got brand new on there. They're golden, working great. A little more grippy even when I'm in the river.
Ooh,
Yep.
good grip.
had some options. He did those. So that's my success story. Jason's taken quite a few boots and
several pairs
and dress shoes, I think, even into him. So, yeah.
What I've learned so far is we could take so many more things in.
I know. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I did the Chacos, and then I'm like, wow, I definitely had a pair of heels at one point. I'm not sure what happened to them, but where it was just the nail sticking out on the bottom, and I just dealt with it for a while till I could have just easily fixed that. I couldn't have. I could have had Tom easily fix that.
Knowing who was coming in today, because I did know that part. I just didn't know what we were talking about.
Yeah.
I have a pair of nude Cole Haans that I found the heel in between the two pieces of wood on my deck. Oh, no. And I'm like, oh, that's why that is exposed. And so I have that heel in the Trailblazer. And then I have the shoe with the nail part exposed, and it's not destroyed yet. And I'm like, ooh, I should bring this in this morning.
There you go.
Be glad I did not. I did not. I'll make a special trip.
Like, no, not this again.
So I think that one might still be able to be repaired. So I'm going to take that in. But I'm like, oh, thank gosh. But there's not much left on that nail nubbin.
Yeah.
So
better not walk in them anymore right now.
Well, I'm not. I went to put them on the other day, and I'm like, ooh, what in the heck? I can't wear these. So.
Okay, so you 5 years ago. Sorry.
No. We should stop talking to each other.
No, are you done with?
Yeah,
sorry,
I'm done with my stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you had more that you wanted to talk about. Okay.
Yeah.
5 years ago, 6 years ago, you said you took over?
In June, I'm not sure the exact day, but June of 2019.
Okay.
And
right before the pandemic.
So you got to go through a pandemic.
Yeah.
You know, I'd never owned a business before that.
That was going to be my other question for you.
It was all new to me.
Yeah.
I just kept my head down and kept working.
And I suppose it's just, do you have other people who work in there with you?
Just me.
So, I mean, that kind of is a business that you could sustain during COVID to some degree.
I definitely looked for avenues that I could expand the services that were offered. Dennis and Jerry, of course, were looking to retire, so they were scaling back a bit. And I had to decide what services I wanted to add to build that business to increase revenue and different areas or directions that I could generate revenue in. So, yeah, it was kind of a whirlwind.
Yeah.
One avenue that certainly was very unique, had not been in the business before, was climbing shoe repair. And so that has grown into a very steady new service that's offered.
Yeah.
So different things like that have really added to the business. Previously, before I came into the business, there was no strong advertising campaign. And as soon as I took over the business, I started utilizing social media. Yeah. And as a result, have garnered, I would say, a very respectable amount of business. I've had customers from New York to Hawaii. I've had repeat customers in Texas. I've got boots from Virginia in the shop right now.
Are these people flying up here with their shoes and dropping them off, or mailing them to you? Okay.
But
tell them to come fly here to pick them up.
So it's been definitely a strong effort to kind of get the word out and make the business more seen and the services that I offer more seen. And it's really easy. Instagram, I'm not big on social media. As soon as I got done with jobs that utilize technology on an everyday basis, I realized how perishable of a skill that is for me personally. And the one thing I like about Instagram is it's very easy. I can just start a live video and then work.
Yes.
I don't have to talk. I don't have to do anything. I just
started. And
started.
people love that stuff. Yeah.
So that's primarily what I do. And the other great thing about Instagram is it all automatically feeds everything into Facebook.
Yeah.
So it's just like, that's good enough advertising
done
for
and
me.
good.
And so I've had a lot of people get a hold of me as a result of finding me on either of those two platforms, which has been really handy.
It's it's kind of the new version of a very long-standing old profession. And you go by the Quiet Cobbler, right, on Instagram, which I love that name. So you've seen good response. You just do those live videos people watch. Yep. I mean, it's that's become such a big thing on social media.
Well, you're seeing how things how things are done.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an interesting aspect that usually you don't get that behind the curtain view. I did watch the movie Adam Sandler did.
I was just thinking about that movie. Yeah.
And the thing, I didn't
I
think
want
it
to be really clear. I do not try on customers' items. That does not
The
happen.
heels, come on. Yeah.
So to me, I didn't like the movie as
I haven't
much
seen it.
as I liked watching him like use the equipment that made or fixed the shoes. And I'm like, well, that's really old school skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I thought, did Adam Sandler really learn how to do any of that? But it's really neat to watch because
Yeah.
it's this handcrafting, this ancient, if you will, handcrafting, in my opinion, that you don't get to see very often.
Yeah. It's one of those skills or professions that I imagine there's some new machinery or skills, but overall it's the same basis of a profession that it was 100 years ago.
So if I've got a lot of very old tools in the shop, my main, my main outsole stitcher was made in the 70s.
Okay.
So it's 50 years old.
Yeah.
And the outsole stitchers that were run manually, which precede that, certainly have a little bit different design, but they accomplish the exact same thing. So a lot of the equipment is readily available in a more modern piece of equipment, but the function that it does remains the same. I've got those two stitchers that are from the 60s or 70s. I have a Singer sewing machine from the 40s.
Wow.
I have newer versions of those machines. So in the end, they're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
The older they are, the newer they were to electricity or running automatically. And so I've got sewing machines that you plug in the wall and they run. I've got sewing machines that you operate by hand.
Oh my gosh.
And utilize all of them depending on, what I'm doing.
Wow.
So I agree. Seeing people in the shoe industry. I'm in the shoe industry. I'm a cobbler. And when I come across a video on YouTube of somebody doing something, it just captures my attention.
Yeah.
Now, I am a little biased. I like to do it. And I like to learn new things. But I do think there's something about it. And that's one of the reasons I chose to almost exclusively have my social media platform focus on the work, is because I know that I appreciate being able to see the process of something I can't do myself.
Yeah.
You take your car to a mechanic, it goes in the shop, the door rolls down, and you just
Magic happens.
You count
Veil
on
of
it being
secrecy.
perfect when you get back.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy seeing the process of whatever it is, especially when I'm unfamiliar with it. And I've had a lot of people come in and say, "Yeah, I saw you working on my boots," and I'm immediately looking at the window. It's like, "What are you talking about?"
You weirdo.
That's how automatic using that social media platform has become, because I know I would appreciate that, and I hope that somebody else would be able to appreciate, or does appreciate, that they can see I'm not hiding anything. I'm not concealing anything.
There's that authenticity component to it.
Yeah. And it, to no small degree, makes you pay attention, because the world is watching.
It's
when
kind of an
you're doing
accountability
something,
partner for
right?
yourself.
You don't want to slip.
And social media world, as we all know, can be, not the social media, humanity through the social media world can be quite brutal sometimes. Was that a little intimidating, being overall newer to something and saying, okay, I'm going to show this off and open this up to
Criticism.
critics? Yeah. Have you had many people that have questioned or been like, oh, you're doing that wrong?
So I'll answer the first question first. Was it nerve-wracking or intimidating for me? Probably the first week or so. But I just kind of quarantined that there on the shelf where I put my phone, and then I just started ignoring it. So that was very easy. Yeah. And then I did have one internet troll. And at first I was genuinely concerned, well, tell me exactly what you mean. What exactly did I do wrong?
What did I do wrong?
And the responses were so generic, oh, you know what you did. I was like, what?
No,
What's
I'm
going on
asking
here?
you.
And
oh my gosh.
After that, you just take it with a smile.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Thanks for your opinion.
Right. Well, what you have to do.
There was nothing of substance in that particular comment. And the more I tried to dig down, the more generic it became.
Yep.
It's like,
Yeah.
no, tell me exactly. Like, this is a video that has a timer on it. Tell me the exact moment I did
What's the
something
time
wrong.
code?
I really
Yeah.
want to know. And yeah, it was a good lesson. I put way too much energy into it over 2 hours trying to figure out what I did wrong. And then I realized, give me a break.
They're just trolls. Yep.
So
100%.
instead of trying to learn from comments, is there like a cobbler convention that you go to, or some type of trade industry where you can continue to enhance and hone in on skills or techniques?
Yes to all.
Ooh.
I have not gone to a convention yet. Most of the conventions for the Shoe Service Institute of America
Okay.
have been on the East Coast.
Oh.
And so it's not that I couldn't afford the time or the plane ticket to go and do that. I just have not.
Yeah.
So there is an organization that is a collective body of knowledge that's focused on, friendly competition. People have, I think it's called the golden shoe, where you get an old pair of shoes and you redo one and then you bring the pair in. And so it's judged off that. And
That's
there's a
cool.
winner every year. But of course, there's also continuing education. There's seminars on the new materials that come out. Providers in the industry are there to demonstrate or showcase their new products. And I haven't been able to, I haven't gone to one of those yet, but I've heard they're just awesome. You see the pictures on social media.
Well, I think we found a
looks
job for
great.
Callie.
I know.
Jean.
I was like, I would love to see the golden shoe competition here.
It's quite wild.
Yeah. I would go watch
We
that.
could pull some pictures up on the Facebook group, which is then the other portion. So the first aspect of the question was, is there a convention or some get together? I haven't utilized that, but there's a Facebook group exclusive to cobblers and shoe repair store owners. And that has been an incredible knowledge sharing platform. I can show up with a problem, type it in, post the post, and within a day have 19 different people weighing in on what to do all across the world.
That's helpful.
It is insanely helpful.
Because they're people who know stuff,
Right.
not
the
random
internet
trolls.
trolls.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that has been very, very helpful. And I had a shoe store owner, I believe in Michigan, call me up and introduce themselves, whatever repair store they were at, and say, hey, just asking, do you know about this Facebook group? I had no idea. And that one call, just as a heads up, because their new daughter-in-law was from Great Falls and mentioned there was a shoe repair shop here.
How funny.
That's what led me to this invaluable resource for knowledge in the industry. And so it's really awesome how close-knit the group can be, even though geographically we may be very far apart.
Sure.
How handy that
No
someone
kidding.
from Michigan just like, hey,
I was
dude,
like, oh, by the way,
want to give
there's
you a
this
little
here.
heads up.
Yeah. That's really cool.
That is neat. Okay, so now I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm going to put Shannon on hold. The things we asked you to cover, like your social security number, you didn't share, which I didn't expect you to, but we didn't cover.
That's where I was going to
like
as well.
social security number. Yeah. Are you a Great Falls kid? What'd you do before you were a cobbler? What do you do when you're not cobbling?
I am not a Great Falls kid.
Okay.
Born and raised South Idaho.
Oh.
Spent time in South Idaho, went to North Idaho, went to Alaska, went to Nevada, and then ended up in Great Falls.
Okay.
Just because you like to travel, or you were attached to
Education and then job chasing.
Okay.
Ah.
So that's good.
Previous to getting into this business, I had a string of jobs that weren't worth sticking with, which led me to cobbling,
Gotcha.
which, the path takes you where the path takes
Yes. Mhm.
It's a beautiful
We
journey.
all end up. Yeah. There you go.
you. What I do outside of my job, very little to begin with, because it was a hell of a learning curve.
Yeah. Mhm.
But like many people, I think, that live in Montana, I enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy hunting, camping, that sort of thing. I used to really be into rock climbing. But, you can only use your forearm so much. And my job is very labor intensive. And
Oh my
I
gosh,
had
yeah, I didn't even think about
a
that
really
part.
crazy case of tennis elbow for a couple months. So I had to
I
scale back on the
bet.
rock climbing. But yeah, just, getting out, and enjoying life as much as I can. We've got 5 acres north of town, so we've got a little hobby farm,
Cool.
rabbits and donkeys and goats and
Fun.
Oh, my.
all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just living life. It's been really fun to get into what my current profession is, and I think it will just be a balance for the rest of my life, finding that work-life balance.
Yeah.
So it's good I enjoy what I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did a project years ago, which that we're looking to revive, called the Montana People of Great Falls. And I approached all these business owners and said, hey, can you share with me on this video? We want to do 30 seconds of like what you do, like what your business is, and then what you do in your spare time. And I always put it in air quotes because as small business owners, there's not really spare time where you're just sitting around on the couch going, I wonder what I'm going to do today.
Right.
So then I would come with a list of options. Like you could be this.
Do you like the outdoors?
You could do
Do you
this,
like food?
walk on the River's Edge Trail or go to a Voyagers game or go to the museum. They're like, we'll take that one.
That sounds great if I ever have time.
I just
I'll do
want
that.
you to be authentic in the way you can try and say this. Like
Right.
when we aren't working our tails off every minute of the day, this is what we like to do.
Yeah, it will take as much time as you want to give it. And so I think the really important thing is to manage your commitments, right? When a customer comes in, I do all pricing and payment upfront, and that includes when the item's going to be done. So right there in that moment, I have the ability to say, how busy do I want to be this week?
Yeah.
Right.
Some weeks it's easier to manage that than others.
Sure.
You know, if you have a lot come in and they're all little jobs, but they all add up to more than you can do,
Yeah.
sometimes you're there till 7 or 8 at night.
Yeah.
You know, Friday mornings notoriously are my busiest time because everything's
slacked all
supposed to
week.
be done. Everything's supposed to be done at Friday at 1 p.m.
Oh.
So, you know, consistently I'm in early on Fridays.
Well, and then you're having to pause your work when people walk in, and
Yes, that's Friday mornings. I've actually stopped answering the phone on Friday mornings. I
Yeah.
update my voicemail that says, hey, it's my busiest day of the week.
yeah.
You're
Busiest
going to have
time
to
of the
leave
week.
a message.
Please leave a message. As soon as I get done with my work, I'll get back to you. So, yeah, it can be quite the ordeal it was quite the ordeal for me to jump into entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
a business, and yeah.
My dad was a mechanic, and now my brother is a mechanic in an extremely small town, which then becomes the place people come and have coffee. And it's an invaluable thing to take the time and just sit and visit with your customers, even though you've got all of this work just backlogging and you're trying to be nice to the people that are there. And you really just want to shoo them out the door and go, come on, people, I've got work to do, which then leads to late nights and early mornings getting that work done so you can still do that public relations component. So I completely sympathize with that aspect, but it is so needed, just giving that time and attention to the randos walking in with their eBay Dolce & Gabbana bags.
Like,
It's really helpful because there's that insight that you, like normal humans that don't have any education in that trade, need to be informed about what the process is, what it's going to look like, how this is going to happen.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So that they can make that educated decision with you, which I think is so important.
And
And
build that connection too, if you feel like there's kind of an educational component to it as
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I try to default to that with every customer. You know, I will give you all the information you want so that you can make an informed decision. And some customers really appreciate that. And some customers just say, just fix
Just
it.
do it.
Either's
I don't
fine
care.
with me, but I definitely start and begin with how much would you like to know about
Yeah.
what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
And the rest sorts itself out.
Yeah.
Now, if I remember correctly, inside the store, there's like shoes for sale. Are those people who've just never came and picked up their shoes?
Good question.
Or like they're like, I've decided I don't really want these anymore.
So to begin with, it was a very small selection of items that had not been paid for and had been abandoned. And I definitely err on the side of really wanting to be considerate to the customer. And so the last pair of shoes that I took that I considered abandoned had been left for over 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
that's time.
It's not like 2 weeks later they're going on the shelf.
Yeah.
Also, the only piece of advice that Dennis impressed upon me regularly during my apprenticeship was move to pay in advance. He said 90% of his headaches over the last 50 years were pay at pickup. And so day one, when the business was mine, we moved to pay in advance. So that took care of any left items that hadn't been paid for.
Yeah.
And so now I've got items that have been on the shelf for 3.5 years.
That were paid for.
But they're paid for.
Yeah.
So they're just sitting there collecting dust. Doesn't bother me. So getting back to the shoes that are there for sale, predominantly those are all consignment sales. So somebody doesn't wear this pair of boots anymore and they bring them in, put them on the shelf.
Okay.
I try and price them to sell. There's no sense in having a pair of boots just collecting dust.
Yeah.
So the inventory is very hard to predict, but if they fit, you're not going to find them at a better price.
Yeah.
And then also I am a retailer for Nick's Handmade Boots, which is a very high quality handmade boot out of Spokane, Washington. And those are brand new from the factory. So two very different worlds.
Yeah.
And being a retailer for them is another way that I expanded my revenue, expanded an opportunity for high quality footwear here in Great Falls. And that's been a really good partnership with their business.
Do you do any dabbling in just like leather work?
All the time.
What kind of dabbling you doing?
That's his hobby in all of his spare time.
I have made sheaths. I have made holsters. I have made bags. I have replaced polyvinyl straps on purses with leather straps more times than I can count. I had a guy come in with a pair of deerskin work gloves that he wanted a gauntlet added to with fringe for a reenactment purpose.
Ooh.
So when it comes to leather work, rather than saying what I have done, it's just easier to say, bring me an idea, and if we can make it work, we will.
Yeah.
Because that's how I've approached that. And I actually have a whole rack of leather that's there for resale purposes. So it's not as extensive, say, as Weaver or a Tandy store. But if you're looking to get started, I've got a lot of different leather options.
Huh.
Now, I want to be aware of time here because you do have your own business you're running by yourself here. But I want to make sure we talk about your Centennial Celebration event coming up. So tell us about that.
So as we were talking earlier, the business verifiably has been open for 101 years. So at the end of the month on the 29th, June 29th at noon at the Heisey Community Center, we're going to have a customer appreciation and centennial celebration.
Ooh.
The entire event is free. We're going to have lots of free food, lots of door prizes. And the only thing that I'm asking attendees to do is RSVP. That way we know how much food to bring and plan for. You can RSVP by calling the store, or if you want, on my Facebook page, there's the event is pinned at the top of the feed, so you can go there, and there is a hyperlink to the RSVP website.
Perfect.
So at the event, of course, we're going to have food, we're going to have door prizes, and then there will be a brief presentation, maybe 5 or 10 minutes about the business history, where I can go through some of the historical documents that we have and the ownership and the different time frames, just to try and show appreciation to the community, because despite the service offered, it also takes the community utilizing that service, especially to be around this long. So really, I want to take the time and the opportunity to give back to the community and say thank you in a fun and appropriate way.
And where can people find you in terms of physical address? How can they get a hold of you, find you on social media, all those things? So
on social media, it's super easy. You can just search for Sillers Boot and Shoe Repair. Physical address for the shop is 1500 8th Avenue North. It's just across the street from Kernigan's gas station.
That's it.
Your handle on Instagram is the Quiet Cobbler, correct?
Yes.
Or you can search for that and find you.
I'm not sure if there's a difference between like the account name and the handle name, but Sillers will find it on both.
Perfect.
There you go.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Good deal.
Now, I may be making something up, which
she
is
does
not
this often.
New. But is there some type of new endeavor that you're working on in the other part of the building?
So the addition that I put on the building houses a martial arts school
Yeah.
that my wife is the instructor for.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. I knew there was some type of martial arts thing going on
Yes.
there, but I wasn't sure.
And there's a group coming for martial arts this September. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great Falls Tongsudo is my wife's martial arts school, and she'll be hosting the regional black belt test and tournament this September.
Do you take free any submissions? Can Rebecca show up and try for her black belt?
No. I mean, if we want to, get on some comedy channels, I'd be happy to help with that. But at the customer appreciation thing, is there going to be any kind of cobbling competition?
Oh, you could create your own golden
Or
shoe.
testing, intro or demonstrations or anything like that?
I do have a lot of historical tools as well as items. I have a pair of boots from probably the 1910s.
Oh my gosh.
And I have different items that will be showcased. They'll be there for people to look at because for me, it's always fun to see things that have a bit of age on them and see how they differ from what you have here. But in terms of a competition, I think I'm better at working than event planning. So the event planning is probably going to take up all of my attention during the event itself.
Okay.
Yeah. Makes sense.
That's fair.
Makes
That's
sense.
fair.
Yeah. Very
so
cool.
I'm going to say it's not necessarily a place you're going to just automatically think to go.
Right.
But it's a fun time.
Yeah.
I have had a blast every time I've gone to Sillers boot and shoe repair.
Yeah.
Just
to walk and be like, I heard you, Tom. I heard you talking.
Yeah.
Give me an education. Here's my random eBay purse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of opportunity to fix things.
And I just think it's incredible that this is such a long-standing business, and to learn more about how viable it still is today is fantastic. So thank you for taking over something and continuing that long-standing legacy, both of the profession and the business in our community, because they're starting to be fewer and far between the ones that have lasted that long.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
Yeah, just the history. And I just think it's a neat profession, a neat trade to be able to have. But that's just coming from a chick who really, really likes shoes.
That's how my business survives.
Yeah, that's right. He's like, I will take you. Yeah. Be a continued customer for all of your 10,000 shoes. Yeah.
Well, Tom, thank you. It's been a blast.
Absolutely.
Come back anytime. Talk to us about random customers and weird things that have happened.
Fun
And
stories. We're the place to share them.
We're the place to share them.
That's right.
So, folks, until we see your bright, happy, smiling, healthy, beautiful faces in our fine, fine city, we both, Shannon and I, hope you are creating amazing memories.
This time.
Amazing memories with your friends and family wherever you might be. See you soon.
We're No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town.